August 15th, 1964. 11:43 p.m. Jimmy "Iron Mike" Williams stood 3 feet behind Bumpy Johnson. .38 special aimed at the back of his boss's head. 30 seconds. That's how long Jimmy held that gun. Finger on the trigger, sweat dripping down his face. Everyone in Small's Paradise was watching, waiting. But Jimmy never pulled the trigger. Instead, he did something that shocked every person in that restaurant. He handed the gun to Bumpy Johnson and said 5 words that would become legend in Harlem. "I choose you over money." This is the story of the night a man chose loyalty over $25,000. Brotherhood over betrayal, and why Bumpy Johnson never had to watch his back again. To understand what happened that night, you need to understand who Jimmy Williams was. 28 years old, 6'2", 240 pounds of pure muscle. He'd been Bumpy's bodyguard for 4 years, ever since he got out of Sing Sing for armed robbery. Jimmy wasn't just protection. He was family. When Bumpy's mother died, Jimmy carried the coffin. When Bumpy went to war with Lucky Luciano's old crew, Jimmy took 2 bullets meant for Bumpy and never complained. But in August 1964, Jimmy Williams was desperate. His younger brother, Marcus, was dying. Leukemia. The doctors said there was an experimental treatment in Switzerland. Cost $200. Didn't have money. Jimmy didn't have money Bumpy couldn't spare because he was fighting a war with the Genovese family. Jimmy had asked. Bumpy had said no, not because he didn't care, but because giving Jimmy $25,000 would show weakness to his enemies. In the criminal world, sentiment is a luxury you can't afford. That's when the offer came. August 10th, 1964, 2:15 p.m. Jimmy was walking out of Harlem Hospital, where his brother was getting chemotherapy, when a black Cadillac pulled up. The window rolled down. Vincent the Fish Torino sat in the back seat, smiling like an insurance salesman. Vincent worked for Anthony "Fat Tony" Salerno, underboss of the Genovese family, the same family that was trying to muscle Bumpy out of Brooklyn. "Jimmy Williams," Vincent said. "Heard your brother's sick. Terrible thing. Kid's what, 19? Jimmy's hand moved toward his waistband. "What do you want?" "To help. Get in." Jimmy should have walked away. Should have told Vincent to go to hell. But when your 19-year-old brother is dying and you're watching him get weaker every day, desperation makes you do things you never thought you'd do. Jimmy got in the car. Vincent didn't waste time. $25,000. Cash. Tonight. All you have to do is kill Bumpy Johnson. Jimmy's blood went cold. "You're out of your mind. Your brother's out of time. Doctors give him what, 2 weeks? 3? But with 25 grand, you can get him to Switzerland. Best cancer doctors in the world. Kid might live to see 30. Vincent opened a briefcase. Neat stacks of $100 bills. More money than Jimmy had ever seen. 1 bullet, 1 moment. Your brother lives. Bumpy dies. Simple math. Jimmy stared at the money. $25,000. His brother's life. All for 1 trigger pull. "Why me?" he asked. "Because you're the only one who can get close. Bumpy trusts you. He won't see it coming." Vincent closed the briefcase. Friday night. Small's Paradise. Bumpy always sits at table 7, back to the wall. But Friday's different. Big celebration. Joe Frazier's fighting Muhammad Ali on television. Place will be packed. Bumpy will be distracted, watching the fight. You stand behind him, put the gun to his head, pull the trigger. In the chaos, you disappear. By midnight, you're 25,000 richer and on a plane to Switzerland with your brother. Jimmy got out of the car without saying yes or no. But Vincent knew desperation has a smell, and Jimmy Williams reeked of it. August 11th through 14th. 4 days of hell. Jimmy couldn't sleep, couldn't eat. Every time he looked at his brother, wasting away in that hospital bed, he saw the briefcase full of money. Every time he looked at Bumpy, treating him like family, trusting him completely, Jimmy felt sick to his stomach. Bumpy even asked him what was wrong. "You look like death, Iron Mike. Everything okay? Just tired, boss? Been spending a lot of time at the hospital. Your brother?" "Yeah." Bumpy put his hand on Jimmy's shoulder. "He's a fighter. Williams' men don't give up easy. He'll pull through. That's when Jimmy almost broke. Almost told Bumpy everything. About the offer, about the money, about how desperate he was. But then he thought about Marcus, 18 years old, supposed to be starting college, instead lying in a hospital bed getting poison pumped into his veins to fight the poison already killing him. And Jimmy kept his mouth shut. August 15th, 1964. The day of the fight. Ali versus Frazier. Every television in Harlem was tuned in. Small's Paradise was packed. 200 people, all watching the big screen television Bumpy had installed just for the occasion. Jimmy arrived at 8:00 p.m., 2 hours before the fight. He was carrying his service weapon, a .38 Special, fully loaded. He'd practiced the motion 100 times. Draw, aim, fire. 3 seconds. Maybe less. Bumpy was at his usual table. Table 7 in the back corner. Perfect position to see the whole restaurant. Back to the brick wall. Except tonight was different. Tonight, Bumpy had moved his chair. Instead of facing the room, he was facing the television. His back was exposed. Vulnerable, just like Vincent said it would be. Jimmy positioned himself at the bar, 10 feet away. He ordered a whiskey, didn't touch it. His hands were shaking. At 11:30, the fight started. Ali was dancing around the ring, throwing jabs. Frazier was pressing forward, looking for the knockout punch. The crowd in Small's Paradise was on their feet, cheering, arguing about who was winning. That's when Jimmy made his move. 11:43 p.m. Jimmy walked slowly toward table 7. Bumpy was leaning forward, watching Ali throw a combination. The restaurant was loud, chaotic. Nobody was paying attention to Jimmy. He was just another bodyguard moving through the crowd. Jimmy reached into his jacket, felt the cold steel of the .38. Drew it slowly, carefully. Bumpy didn't notice. He was laughing at something one of his associates had said about Ali's footwork. Jimmy stood directly behind Bumpy's chair, raised the gun, aimed it at the back of Bumpy's head. 3 feet away, impossible to miss. Jimmy's finger found the trigger, started to squeeze. And then Jimmy froze, because in that moment, with the gun in his hand and Bumpy's life one trigger pull away, Jimmy remembered something. He remembered the day he got out of prison. No family waiting for him, no job, no place to go. He'd been standing on the sidewalk outside Sing Sing with $37 and a bus ticket to nowhere, when a car pulled up. Bumpy Johnson got out. "Jimmy Williams," Bumpy had said. "Heard you did 4 years without saying a word about the job that got you caught. That shows character." Jimmy had been suspicious. "What do you want?" "To give you a job. Good pay. Fair treatment. Respect. All I ask is loyalty." "Why me?" "Because a man who won't betray strangers won't betray friends." That conversation 4 years ago had changed Jimmy's life. Bumpy didn't just give him a job. He gave him purpose, dignity, a place in the world. And now Jimmy was about to repay that kindness with a bullet to the head. Jimmy stood there, gun aimed. For 30 seconds that felt like 30 hours. Sweat was pouring down his face. His hand was shaking so badly he could barely hold the gun steady. Around him the crowd was cheering for Ali, who had just landed a hard right. But Jimmy wasn't hearing the crowd. He was hearing his conscience. That's when Bumpy turned around. Maybe it was instinct. Maybe he felt Jimmy's presence. Maybe he just wanted to say something about the fight. But Bumpy turned in his chair and saw Jimmy standing there with a gun pointed at his head. The look on Bumpy's face wasn't fear. It wasn't anger. It was disappointment. Pure, crushing disappointment. "Jimmy," Bumpy said quietly. "What are you doing?" Jimmy's voice cracked. "I'm sorry, Bumpy. I'm so sorry." "Put the gun down, son. I can't. My brother's dying. They offered me $25,000. It's the only way to save him." Bumpy nodded slowly. "Who offered you $25,000? "Vincent Torino, Genovese family." "And you believed them?" Jimmy's hand was shaking so badly now he could barely hold the gun. "The money's real. I saw it." "The money's real," Bumpy agreed. "But you think they're going to let you live after you kill me?" You think they're going to let you walk out of here with $25,000 and a plane ticket to Switzerland? Jimmy hadn't thought about that. In his desperation to save his brother, he hadn't considered what would happen after he pulled the trigger. What do you mean? I mean, Vincent Torino has 6 men positioned around this restaurant right now. The moment you shoot me, they're going to shoot you. Then they're going to go to the hospital and finish your brother. No witnesses. No loose ends. That's how the Genovese family operates. Jimmy's face went pale. You're lying. Look around, Jimmy. Look carefully. Jimmy glanced around the restaurant without moving the gun. At first, he didn't see anything unusual. Just people watching the fight, drinking, talking. But then he started noticing details. The man at the bar, who hadn't touched his drink in 20 minutes. The couple at table 3, who weren't watching the television. The waiter who'd been standing in the same spot for the past 5 minutes without serving anyone. 6 men, Bumpy said quietly. All armed, all waiting for you to pull that trigger so they can kill you and blame your death on me. They get what they want. I'm dead. You're dead. Your brother dies in a hospital bed. And the Genovese family takes over my territory without a war. Jimmy was crying now, tears streaming down his face. What am I supposed to do? Marcus is dying. You're supposed to trust me, Bumpy said. The way I've been trusting you. Jimmy looked into Bumpy's eyes. No fear, no anger, just compassion. For a man holding a gun to his head. That's when Jimmy understood the difference between Bumpy Johnson and men like Vincent Torino. Bumpy built loyalty through respect. Vincent built compliance through fear. And in that moment, Jimmy knew which world he wanted to live in. Jimmy lowered the gun, flipped it around, handed it to Bumpy, gripped first. I choose you over money, he said. The restaurant went silent. 200 people had been watching the fight. Now they were watching something more important. A man choosing his principles over his desperation. Bumpy took the gun, set it on the table. Vincent, Bumpy called out. His voice carried over the silent restaurant. I know you're here. Come have a conversation. Vincent Torino stood up from table 3. He wasn't smiling anymore. He looked like a man whose perfect plan had just collapsed. Bumpy Johnson. Vincent Torino. You want to explain to everyone here why you tried to turn my family against me? Business is business. Family is family. And you just learned the difference. Vincent's hand moved toward his jacket. That's when Jimmy stepped forward. He might have given Bumpy the gun, but he was still Bumpy's bodyguard. I wouldn't, Jimmy said quietly. Vincent looked around the restaurant. Every person in the place was staring at him. Some were Bumpy's people. Others were just regular folks from the neighborhood. But all of them understood what had just happened. Vincent Torino had tried to corrupt their neighborhood's protector and failed. This isn't over, Vincent said. Yes, Bumpy replied. It is. Vincent and his 5 men left the restaurant. They didn't come back. Not that night. Not ever. Because word spread through New York's underworld about what had happened at Small's Paradise. Jimmy Williams had chosen loyalty over money. Bumpy Johnson had chosen trust over revenge. And the Genovese family had learned that some things can't be bought. But the story doesn't end there. Because Bumpy Johnson understood something about loyalty that most people miss. Loyalty isn't just about making the right choice when it's easy. It's about what you do after someone makes the right choice when it's hard. August 16, 1964. 9:00 a.m. Jimmy was sitting in his brother's hospital room when Dr. Hamilton walked in with a clipboard and a confused expression. Mr. Williams, I have some unusual news. An anonymous donor has paid for your brother's treatment, all of it, including the experimental therapy in Switzerland. Jimmy knew immediately who the donor was. But he also knew better than to ask. Some gifts aren't meant to be acknowledged directly. Marcus Williams went to Switzerland 2 days later. The experimental treatment worked. He lived to see 30 and 40 and 50. He became a doctor himself, specializing in cancer research. He never knew that his life was saved because his brother chose loyalty over money. Jimmy Williams stayed with Bumpy Johnson until Bumpy died in 1968. He carried the coffin at Bumpy's funeral, just like he'd carried the coffin at Bumpy's mother's funeral. Years after Bumpy's death, Jimmy opened a small security company in Harlem. He hired ex-cons, men who needed second chances. His business card had a simple motto: loyalty earned, trust kept. In 1985, a reporter from the Amsterdam News tracked down Jimmy Williams. The reporter wanted to know about the old days. About Bumpy Johnson. Jimmy was retired by then, 69 years old, sitting on his front porch in Queens. "People always ask me about the violence," Jimmy told the reporter. "About the guns and the wars. But they're asking the wrong question. The right question is, what kind of man inspires loyalty?" The reporter asked Jimmy about the night at Small's Paradise, about the gun and the choice and the 30 seconds that changed everything. Jimmy was quiet for a long time. "You know what I learned that night?" Jimmy finally said. "I learned that there are two kinds of power in this world. There's the power that comes from fear, and there's the power that comes from respect. Fear might get you obedience, but it'll never get you loyalty." The reporter asked Jimmy if he ever regretted his choice. Jimmy smiled. "Regret choosing family over money? Regret choosing principle over profit?" Jimmy shook his head. "Son, I sleep easy every night because I know I made the right choice. 30 seconds isn't a long time to point a gun at someone. But 30 seconds is plenty of time to choose who you want to be." August 15, 1964. 30 seconds. A gun pointed at the back of a man's head. A choice between money and loyalty, between fear and respect. Jimmy Williams chose loyalty. Bumpy Johnson chose trust. And Harlem learned that some bonds can't be broken, even when they're tested by desperation and tempted by fortune. If this story of loyalty, brotherhood, and choosing principle over profit moved you, hit that subscribe button. Drop a like if you understand that real strength isn't about the gun in your hand, it's about the character in your heart. Share this with someone who knows that the hardest choices define who we really are. What would you have done in Jimmy Williams' position? Let me know in the comments below.